Now, this is my Uncle Leonard Jeffries, and we're giving you some history. So you want to put the camera so they can see you from the long way, Uncle. I think there's too much for this. There you go.
Okay. Well, certainly we're glad that our sister has come, our daughter has come to try to connect things, and it's necessary, so it's very timely. And but we have so many loose pieces that we need to tie together. And we mentioned Paul Robeson. Well, he's one of our greatest and most talented figures on the world stage. Everybody appreciated him in Russia and in Ireland and the Welsh countries in England. And so we also have to learn to appreciate him. But with me, as Roslind has been mentioned in my life, that we deal with the intergenerations. If you talk about Amiri Baraka, you've got to talk about his son Raz. Mm-hmm. And he's an inspiration. He's one of our adopted young men. But the relationship it did not begin with me and Amiri Baraka at Barringer High School. It began with my mother and father, who were friends of Baraka's mother and father in Newark, New Jersey. And they had formed an organization called the Student Council to deal with education. So you're talking about 3 generations of African people trying to find their way and make a way out of no way. And the same thing is with Robeson. This is, people say, well, Dr. J, you've been hooked up with everybody. Well, I've lived 84 years in a meaningful life. And so there is Paul Robeson's son, Paulie. And he was speaking in New York in February. And after he spoke, and they ran down his pedigree. And then I spoke a week or so later, and they ran down my pedigree. And with Paul Robeson's son, they're talking about him being a lecturer, journalist, scientist, translator, archivist. And his theme was civil rights, past, present, and future. And then it says that he's a weekly commentator to WBAI. And his program is entitled USSR in Change. He spent some time in Russia. His father was interested in dealing with the progressive forces. Author of a series of columns for the New York Amsterdam News, several magazine articles in the Jewish Current and Science and Society. And he did marry, and he married a Jewish young lady, and they had children. Founder and president of the Paul Robeson Archives. And that's what my wife and I are trying to do, is make sure that we have the Legacy Project dealing with the Jeffries Archives in reference to the people that the Jeffries related to and come out of. And so this is a big project for this time that we are sitting at, dealing with this so-called disease. He devoted to the preservation, cataloging, and expansion of the massive Paul Robeson and Islandia Robeson collection of papers, tape recordings, films, photographs, and memorabilia. This particular message is for our attorney, our judge. This is...
That's me.
That's right. And so she has a chance to reconnect with us, but when we were together, we didn't have all this that we got now.
Now, yes.
And so here is Doctors Roslind and Leonard Jeffries, and we're the founders of the Jeffries Archive. And we got to deal with preservation, cataloging, expansion of the massive Paul Robeson and Islandia collection of papers. And he and his wife, Paul, they're buried in the same cemetery as Malcolm and Betty on different sides of the mausoleum. And across the field is Dr. Ben. And near Dr. Ben is, no, Dr. Clark is in Georgia.
Georgia, okay.
They took him home. But you have Khalid Muhammad and Dr. Ben near each other. Mm-hmm. So it's fantastic that we do have these spaces where we can take care of our people and remember them. And he hosts a 1-hour program on Channel 13, Paul Robeson, Man of Conscience. Now this is 1986. Now Dr. J came in 2 weeks later, and February 22nd, the week later, and he's going to deal with blacks in science and technology, past and present. Presently chairman of the Black Studies Department, City College of New York, and recipient of honors in government, Rotary International Fellowship, Columbia University Fellowship, African Studies Fellowship, and the Rockefeller Foundation Fellowship. And that's what I used to live overseas with my wife, and we did our work on the Ivory Coast. Author of The Urban Crisis in the U.S., that was a 150-page paper I did as an undergraduate. Republic of Senegal 4-year development plan, that was my master's essay. Subnational politics in the Ivory Coast, that was my PhD. And so it just cites some of the work that we've done. But for all of these works, when you talk about the Senegal development plan, 4-year development plan, there's a whole archive behind it. So it's not only just a document, where I'm calling for the integration of West Africa, the 4-year development plan, and I could see that these states, these many states, needed to be part of a larger process. But the beautiful thing about Paulie was that he had a son and he had a daughter. The daughter Susan worked with Gil Noble until they had a falling out. And then Paulie's son, David, was named after Robeson's older brother, David. And David was tall and he was light-skinned. However, his thing was to go into Africa. He became a stilt dancer. He could get up on the stilts and et cetera, et cetera. So one of my great moments with him was flying to Africa from the U.S. with this beautiful scholar. And she's a top educator, Sheila Walker.
I'm going to stop this because this is going to be on part 1, ladies and gentlemen, because we have to break it up. Because you know that, and when I put it on to Instagram, I want everybody to get the entire story. So I'm going to break this down, and I'm going to start over in part 2.